Traveling the path to the heart. An interesting journey. I'm always amazed when I get a topic how my mind likes to go to work on it. And this is what I got. Traveling the path to the heart. Where do I start? Where do I go? Is the question, because we all want to know where we start and where we're going to go with this. The daily journey begins in the garage of our head. Open the doors of our mind and get a new look on the world. Start by traveling down that old rugged road of forgiveness. Turn sharply onto the freeway of self-acceptance and turn into the town of gratitude and spend much of your life there. And I thought, wow. And then something else popped into my mind, and it really made a lot more sense. Anybody ever seen Groundhog Day with Bill Murray? Every day he wakes up and it's the same thing over again and over again and over again. And I thought, there it is, folks. We wake up every day in the garage of our mind, open up the door and have a look. The garage of our head, the door, open up the doors of our mind. We have a look, and the best way we can do is start down the path of forgiveness, turn on the road of self-acceptance, and work into the town of gratitude, and start our day from there. Because have you ever noticed it don't take long in the morning before something crops in that you got to get rid of in your head that you don't want? Is it not? Okay, everybody has that happen to them. It's not just me. And, that's what we need to do. We have to have that awareness because it just isn't going to, I'll do this for a while and I'm fixed. Well, folks, I've been doing this in my 47th year, and I think that you got to do it daily because I'm still not fixed. Okay? Because something always happens out there to take our energy and attention away from peace and from living from the heart. Okay? So it's a journey of peace that needs trust and faith. I always say that there's two parts to the heart. There's the human heart and the spiritual heart. Now, the human part is where you get your physical responses. I always use relationships because everybody knows about these. And in relationships, we always have the positive and the negative. Has anybody noticed that? Or what we deem that? So constantly, life is all about reconciling the positives and negatives, including letting go of the negative, which is the old one, and bringing in the positive, which is the new one. Has anybody ever done that with a relationship? Yeah, a few people. Yeah, I'm a professional, so I've got it down now, so a slow learner. Yeah, we're like that. And so you're always on a flow like this with your emotion. And that's not too bad. We just got to understand it's how it works, and it's going to work like that from the human part of us, and all we can do is manage it and not get too stupid with it. And, you mean just on the negative part? No, you can get too stupid on the positive part and get blindly in love with someone and get fleeced. Does that ever happen to anybody? I'm not going to go there. Okay, we don't want to talk about that, do we? But that's how it works, okay? So in the human experience, we're always like this. And one of the things I first learned when I got into this that took me many years to understand and to work to achieving is something that Yogananda said. It was the neutralization of the waves of likes and dislikes, so that you don't get whipped into a lather too much about the good stuff and don't get into too much of a decimation on the bad stuff. Just keep it even in that little balance. And people will say, yeah, well, that's boring. Well, you know what? If you get in touch with the universe, it's boring. It doesn't have that fluctuation in emotion. It doesn't need to because it just is. It is. All of that is us with the human part. It's got nothing to do with the universe, except we're in it. Okay? So we need to understand that about ourselves. And then we go over to the spiritual heart. And the very nature of the spiritual heart is a pulsation. And it pulsates from within us. That sensation, when we get away from the human part of love and we just get into the neutral part, we can feel that. Anybody ever been feeling that pulsation from within that pulsates, that feels so darn good? And he felt that just feels good inside. That is the spiritual love, because you can't put a handle on it. And it pulsates, and it's always there pulsating, waiting to go this way. And then receive and come back around and circulate. So why doesn't that happen all the time? Because simply there's obstructions. And those obstructions are when we get tangled up to too much in our human emotion and allowing that to dictate experience other than dealing with it as we need to. I would be amiss if I said I didn't get ticked every now and again still. We don't want to go there, but everybody does. But you got to deal with it and then get back and realizing what that was. That's part of our journey. And then get back into getting peaceful, centered, and allow that essence to pulsate outside of us. Haven't you ever walked into a room when there's been somebody there and, oh man, you just can feel their energy? And you're just attracted to it? Or how about that time you walk in and there's somebody there and you feel that energy and you go, even when I was a bad boy, I was in a room with some people there that had that energy that terrified me, and not much terrified me. But there are people like that, and there are people on the other end of that. And it's simply for us is which end of the stick do we want to play on? Because that's our choice. That's the human heart and the spiritual heart. Eric Butterworth, big Unity author, my favorite, by the way, second most favorite book in the world, Spiritual Economics. He says, God can only do for you what he can do through you. And Ernest Holmes said, there are no obstructions to the operation of truth in me. Because we are simply that, a flow. And you know what happens when we get obstructions in our body? We kind of get constipated. Is it true? Anybody ever had that experience? Just a few. Well, guess what? If you get all that negativity in here, you get spiritually constipated. And we need a spiritual enema, which is just turning back to the truth and just letting those go. Okay? We don't have to take anything, folks. Okay? That's what we need to do. Another example of being able to look at yourself, I call it sailing on the ocean of life. We're very much like a majestic sailing ship out there, heading out on the journey, big sails to capture the wind, strong navigation equipment, great rudder, and the captain that's really tuned in. The rudder's the mind. The wind that drives the sails is the emotion. When they work together, man, you can really go places. And if the person that's operating that vessel is correct, then you've got all kinds of things you can do. But what happens if the winds are hurricane? You've got a problem. What happens if your rudder or your mind's not working? You got all the emotion you want. You can go like a bat out of hell right straight into destruction. Or if there's no wind and no feeling and your mind's working perfect, you go all right. You go and go and go very slowly. But you got to have the two of them. So the captain is really the captain of your soul, the captain of my soul. Because I am the master of my own fate and the captain of my own soul. I take it back to a poem I come across that really reflects that. And think of yourself, by the way, think of yourself the next time as that ship and how you're navigating. If there's turbulence, I'll guarantee you, the wind and the mind aren't working properly. It needs the harmony. So I come across this poem which I really liked, and it's called Invictus. And it's written by a man called William Henley. Invictus is Latin for the unconquered, and the speaker proclaims his strength in the face of adversity. And he had tuberculosis and went through a terrible time with it. In fact, they wanted to amputate his leg, but they wouldn't let him. He went through a series of operations and spent several years in the hospital. And in the hospital, during his stay, he wrote a number of poems. He was a poet. And so his book of poems in the hospital is called In Hospital. How do you like that, eh? But one of them is Invictus. So you can imagine this man laying there with his decimated body, and Invictus means unconquered. And he writes, out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I would not have winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of a chance, my head is bloody, but unbowed. Beyond the place of wrath and tears looms the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master of my own fate. I am the captain of my own soul. And I want to say something to each and every one of you here. Is there anybody here in the helping and healing businesses at all? And you've had something where you've seen people have a change and a new experience in life? Is there anybody here through the wisdom that you've had, just with a kind word, have you ever had the chance just to help somebody have a better experience in life? Anybody here? We all have, and we all do that, and there's no way to measure what you do and how you do it, except every now and again we get a little feedback. And I want to read something that I got from a man that I worked with 8 years ago, and I continue to mentor today. And he wrote this. He said, self-sabotage defined my life. Sabotage was always lurking in my dreams and aspirations, wreaking havoc in my plans, relationships, and work. Every success was eventually sabotage. Douglas Craig's course helped me with the tools and, most importantly, the awareness to deal with life's pendulum. With awareness comes responsibility, the responsibility to act on awareness. Douglas's course can be completed by motivated individuals. However, the course never finishes. When I first met Douglas Craig, I was broken. Not just broken, defeated, depressed, and raging angry, dangerously angry. I was 52 and homeless, sleeping on the couch of an old friend. His house was on full renovation. There's not a finished room in the house, and I was sleeping downstairs. Each night, I stared up at the open beams above, trying to muster the courage to hang myself. Every minute of the hour and every day was a fight not to kill someone or kill myself. I had lost all hope. I had hit rock bottom. Of course, everyone else was to blame. First, it was my family and the abusers for the abused, the neglect and the emotional scars. Then schools and the police for the discipline and punishment doled out for my reactions to the abuse. I hated any kind of authority. Drugs and alcohol were coping mechanisms, yet they only fueled the rage, the depression, and the self-hate. The greater the depression, the greater the rage and self-hate, and consequently, the more I would act out And as a result, my life was a constant chaos. Douglas's course taught me that I was an instrument of my own demise. Sure, I did experience significant childhood trauma, sexual, physical, emotional, and mental abuse. I had a choice. I could continue to allow the horrible things I experienced to define me, or I can have the courage and strength to use the tools provided in the course to rise above the abuse. I learned how to release emotional energy attached to the abuse, the rage, the depression. I experienced gratitude for the first time in my life. Completing Douglas Craig's course gave me my life back. I learned to love myself, to forgive myself, and to accept my shortfalls. I am currently managing a successful hearing clinic in Powell River, BC. I am in a happy, harmonious relationship with my family, friends, and coworkers. Well, the pendulum always swings, and I don't always react as well as I would have liked. I love and respect myself enough to keep employing the tools that have saved me so far. I am forever grateful to Douglas Craig and his ongoing mentorship. And I read this not because of what I do, but because of what we all do. Okay? Now, you see, that's what traveling the path to the heart is. By doing what we do, we give, through our own experience, we create an opportunity for other people to redeem themselves and have a life. By the way, Steve is now working with me in addition to his business, but a little addendum. The guy said, I got a partnership in 80 businesses across Canada in this, and he says, I'm going to give you 50%. So he's now a 50% ownership and helping Canada here, and he's got his own house. They just bought a house. Bought the inventory because he's a professional sales guy. His boss said, that's way too much for the next year. He sold it in 6 weeks and was the top salesperson ever, which usually took the next best 6 months. He did in 6 weeks. Okay? Now, I shared that with you because it's a true story, and he's there and he knows he's not done. That's where he did when he come in, and by doing what I do and by doing what you do, it creates a path where someone can travel to the heart. Because it seems to me like he's getting there. Don't you think so? And all he had to do was just get rid of the obstructions. Well, I shouldn't say all he had to do. Yeah, he had to do that, but it isn't that easy, if you all know what I mean. But I share this because this is a story, to me, not of motivation. My work and the people I work with that have had these experiences are not motivated. They are a story of hope and inspiration, because a lot of these people were wrote off by society that I've worked with. And now they're being productive and having a life and happy. So keep doing what you're doing. Share this work because it is worthwhile. And to all of you, I salute you for the good work you're doing. And I know that God is great, God is good, so are we, and so it is.